All right, guys, here we go. Note solving polynomial equations. Here are the steps. Step number 1, you have to factor completely. Okay. In factoring, you always look for the GCF. If it's two terms, it's normally a difference of two squares or the sum of difference of two cubes. And sometimes it's just a GCF, and that's the end. If you have three terms, then that's a trinomial. Then you can factor by factoring, okay? Or look for if it's a perfect trinomial. That's called a trinomial square. If it's four terms, you factor by grouping. Then once it's all factored out, then you are going to use the zero product property. That means one of the sides of the equal sign has to equal to 0. Then you just solve for it normally. If you have two factors, one's a binomial, which has two terms, and that's easy. Now, if you have three terms, which is a quadratic, then you need to use the quadratic formula, or you need to solve for it by completing the square. Okay? We have 5 examples here. Let's follow the directions. Solve the following polynomial equations under complex numbers. Under complex number, meaning that now you are going to have imaginary at times. So, example 1, 2x to the third minus 9x squared minus 18. The first thing in factoring is you will need to take out a GCF. They all have an x in common, so you want to take out an x first. If you take an x first, you have 2x squared minus 9x minus 18. Then from here, we are going to try to factor out the 2x squared minus 9x minus 18. I use the x. You don't have to, by the way. So negative 18 times 2 is now negative 36. There's a negative 9 in the bottom. So your goal is to find two numbers, multiply, give you negative 36, and add, give you negative 9. So the factors of 36 are 1 and 36. That's not going to work. 2 and 18. Well, that's not going to work, right? 3 and 12. That may work depending on the sign. So you got 3 and 12. I have to multiply, give me negative 36, and add, give you negative 9. So that's going to be a negative 12 right there. So we're going to drop, well, we're going to keep the x in mind. That's not going to go away. So right now, we are going to rewrite 2x squared, the negative 9 taken out, and we are going to write negative 12x plus 3x minus 18. We're just trying to factor out this trinomial right there. So with 4 terms, we factor by grouping. So now this allows me to take out 2x with that first group of 2x minus 12x. I'm left with x minus 6. 3x minus 18, they have a positive 3 in common. Take out a positive 3, so you're going to left with x minus 6 as well. These two guys are in common. So now that is your factor. You can factor that out. You're left with 2x plus 3. Don't forget to drop this guy all the way down, which is an x. And don't forget to drop this guy all the way down, which equals to 0. So now you have 3 different factors. Set each factor equals to 0. So 2x plus 3 equals 0. Then solve for x. The first one's done. X equals to 0. Okay. Then the next one, add 6 to both sides. X equals to 6. And the next one, move 3 over. So now it's negative 3. Then your answer is going to be negative 3 divided by 2. So those are the 3 x values. So from here, I'm just going to put it all together in order from smallest to biggest. So negative 3 over 2, comma 0, comma 6. And that is my final set of solutions. And we're going to do the same thing for number 2. Number 2, you have x to the third plus 25. Now, be mindful. X to the third is a cubic. 125, do you think that's also a cubic? Okay, so x to the third, we can rewrite it as like that. X to the third plus 5 to the third equals to 0. This is the sum of two cubes. If you remember, the formula for a cubed plus b cubed is a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. Close it up, equals to 0. In your problem, your a is actually x and your b is 5. So we just have to fill it out. Here we go. A is x, b is 5, so x plus 5. A is x, so this is x squared, minus 5 times x is 5x, and then 5 squared is now 25, equals to 0. Those are as far as you can go in factoring, but you can take each factor and you set it equals to 0. So the first one, x plus 5 equals to 0, x squared minus 5x plus 25 equals to 0. Well, the first factor is easy to find my x. I have x equals to 5. This one, this quadratic equation, it's not as easy. It's not factorable, so I have to use the quadratic formula. X equals negative b. Your b is negative 5, so it's now just positive 5. Plus or minus square root b squared minus 4 times a. A is actually 1. Times c is 25, all over 2 times a, which is 1. X equals 5 plus or minus square root of negative 5 squared is now positive 25. 4 times 1 times 25 is a negative 100. As you can see, there's a negative under the radical, meaning that you will have imaginary answers, okay? X equals 5 plus or minus square root of negative 75 all over 2. This is going to be 5 plus or minus. Remember, I can pull out an I with a 75. So if you see a square root, make sure that's taken out. So that's an I taken out. Square root of 25 is square root of 75, I'm sorry, is 25 times 3. Okay. Well, square root of 25 is a really, really nice number. So 5 plus or minus I can take out the square root of 25, which is 5. Remainder under the radical is still 3 all over 2. And that, let's make that really pretty. So x equals 5 plus or minus 5i radical 3 all over 2. I cannot simplify that any further, so that's as far as we can go on those two complex solutions. So let's put them all together. In this case, I'm going to put 5 here first. Then x equals to 5 plus or minus 5i radical 3 all over 2. And those are all 3 of my answers. Now, we have 3 more examples to go, okay? If this is going too fast, that's the nice thing about having video notes is you can pause it. You can ask it to be paused, or you can pause it yourself if you're doing it on your own. Example 3, x to the third equals 1. So again, you want to set it equals to 0, so you can factor, and you can use the zero product property. So x to the third minus 1 equals to 0. This is the sum and difference of 2 cubes. In this case, it's the difference of 2 cubes. So 8x to the third. This is really can be rewritten as something to the third equals 8x to the third. So that's really 2x. Okay. So if you remember, the difference of 2 cubes is a cubed minus b cubed is a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared equals to 0. You have a and b. So a in our case is really 2x and b is really just 1. And we just have to fill it in. Okay. So 2x minus 1 times the quantity. This is really 2x squared plus a times b. 2x times 1 is 2x. 1 squared, just 1, equals to 0. Then we're going to simplify it a little bit more before I can take each factor and set it equals to 0. Okay, so these are as far as you can go. So now you can take each factor and set it equals to 0. So the first factor is 2x plus 1 equals to 0. The next factor is 4x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals to 0. To solve for x, move the 1 over. So now you have 2x equals to negative 1. Divide both sides by 2. My first x value is at a negative half. The second one is not going to be factorable, so we are going to use the quadratic formula. X equals negative b, which is b value is 2, so negative is now negative 2, plus or minus square root b squared, that's 2 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is 1, all over 2 times 4. So this continues to be negative 2 plus or minus 4. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 16, all over 8. Let's simplify that really quickly. I'm going to make that radical sign a little bit shorter. So negative 2, 4 minus 16 is going to be a negative 12, all over 8. Let's simplify that some more. I will take out the I, plus or minus I, take out the 12, take out the I from the radical 12, so now I just have radical 12. Radical 12 is 4 times 3 over 8, which is now negative 2 plus or minus 2i, because square root of 4 is 2. The radical 3 stays inside. Now, on the top, I need to factor out a 2. If I do, is negative 1 plus or minus I, radical 3, all over. On the denominator, 8 is now 2 times 4. That will allow me to reduce the 2's. So here are your 2 remaining complex answers. Negative 1 plus or minus I, radical 3, all over 4. Those are 2 more answers of what you already have. So let's put them together. So your 3 answers are x equals negative 1/2, comma, negative 1 plus or minus I, radical 3, all over 4, and that's what we want to box up. Okay. So this question, again, also has 3 answers. If you have a third power, you will have 3 complex answers. Okay. If you have the highest degree is 2, you will have 2 complex answers. We have 2 more questions, and then we can stop with this part of the notes. Number 4, remember, we want to factor, so we always want to look for GCF. We do have a GCF of an x, so we will take out an x. We're left with 4x squared minus 9 equals to 0. You think that this is the end of factoring, but no, this is a minus, and both 4x squared and 9 are perfect squares. So we need to go further by factoring sums and difference of 2 squares. Sum and difference 2 squares is one's plus and one's minus. So this is 2x in the front and then 3 in the back. So that's how you factor sum and difference of 2 squares. If you remember, this is how it goes. A squared minus b squared equals a plus b times a minus b. Just kind of reminding you the format. Then take each factor and set it equal to 0. So the first factor is x, set equal to 0. The next one is 2x plus 3 equals to 0. And the next one is 2x minus 3 equal to 0. Well, x plus 3, x equals to 0, it's as is, okay? Then the next one, you're going to move or subtract the 3 to the right. So it's 2x equals to negative 3. Divide both sides by 2. So x is now negative 3 over 2. So that's another answer. The last one, you do similar. You add 3 to both sides. So that's positive 3. Divide both sides by 2. So x is now at positive 3 over 2. So now you have one more answer added on. So if you want to, write it from smallest to biggest, just so that way you're not missing any answer. Okay? So again, we have 3 answers. Now look at the degree. If x to the third is the highest degree you have in your equation, you will have 3 complex answers. Okay? And a complex answer can be, remember, a real number is also in the set of complex world. Okay? Last one, again, it's not equaling to 0. So when that is the case, you want to subtract everything to make it equal to 0. Now, when you do subtract, put it in the highest power. So x to the third is the highest power, plus 2x squared is the next highest power, minus 9x. 9x has a power 1, minus 18 has no power for x, equals to 0. I have 4 terms, so I might be interested in factor by what? By grouping. Okay, so x to the third plus 2x squared, I have x squared in common. So we'll take out an x squared, you're left with x plus 2. Negative 9x and a minus 18, I will take out a negative 9. When that's the case, I have x plus 2 equals to 0. Now, this right here, these two are in common. That means I can take it out again. Taking it out means like factoring, okay? This is not x squared minus 9. Well, it seems like this is where you are going to stop, but no. This right there is a difference of 2 squares. So if it's a difference of 2 squared, you got to go further. X plus 3 times x minus 3 are the factors of difference of 2 squares. Now, each factor set equals to 0. X plus 2 equals 0. X plus 3 equals to 0. X minus 3 equals to 0. And then we just solve for x normally. So subtract 2 to both sides. I got x minus 2 is one answer. Subtract 3 to both sides. I got x minus 3 is the second answer. Add 3 to both sides. I have x equals to 3. So you can leave them right now as they are, or you can write them from smallest to biggest, just like that. So that is how you solve by factoring. Okay? And this is the end of this note.